Hello, I'm Bernard Norcott-Mahany. I work at the Blueford branch of the Kansas City Public Library. For April 2022, I am reading odes of the Roman poet Horace. Today we're looking at the third poem in Book 3 of the odes, and the first 6 poems in Book 3 are sometimes called the Roman odes, and each one sort of addresses like a Roman virtue. The one for poem 3, which is a sort of longer poem, is what David Ferry, the translator, calls constancy of purpose. This is from the Latin word constantia, which when I taught Latin, used to translate as stick-to-it-iveness. This is a virtue of the Romans, that they stick with something until they get it done. So that determination might be another way of looking at that. This particular poem brings up the Trojan War and Paris and Helen, so you'll see some of that stuff in the poem. So, without further ado, Ode 3 of Book 3, Constancy of Purpose. The man who knows what's right and is tenacious in the knowledge of what he knows cannot be shaken. Not by people righteously impassioned in a wrong cause, and not by menacings of tyrants' frowns, nor by the wind that roils the stormy Adriatic, nor by the fiery hand of thundering Jove. The sky could fall in pieces all around him, he would not quail. This is how Pollux and Hercules made their way up to the stars, where someday Caesar will sit, drinking the nectar of heaven at the same table, and Father Bacchus. This is the reason the tigers, used to wearing the yoke, consented to wear it to draw you in your chariot up the skies. This is how Romulus, in the chariot of Mars, who was his father, was carried up from Acheron to heaven to be a god. When the gods in council met to consider the question of Romulus's admission among their number, the goddess Juno spoke, saying these words: Troy, O fallen Troy, the foreign woman and the corrupted judge have brought you down into my hands and the hands of chaste Minerva. O Troy, destined long since to be brought down, when Priam's royal father broke his promise. No longer are the eyes of the adulterous Spartan woman dazzled by the beauty of the infamous guest in her husband's house. No longer does Hector's help Priam's house hold out against the bellicose Greeks. The war, the quarrels between the gods kept going, is finally over. From now on, I, Juno the goddess, forgive the offenses that were the cause of Juno's wrath, and now I consent that the child of Mars, my grandchild, the child whom the Trojan priestess Ilia bore, be permitted to enter into heaven's precincts, to sit at the table of the serene gods, to drink the nectar and be one of them. I will forgive so long as the deep sea seethes, forever separating Troy and Rome. Let the exiles settle and prosper where they will, so long as cattle are free to trample on the graves of Priam and of Paris too, and wild beasts able to whelp and litter there. This being so, so long may the Capitol shine, so long may the warlike Romans in their triumph lay down the Roman law to the conquered Medes. Let the name of Rome be heard across the sea, over to Egypt, where the great river swells to feed the thirsty fields. Let her name resound to the farthest places, engendering awe and fear. Let the Romans go to the limits of the world, not for the sake of plunder, but for the sake of extending Roman knowledge everywhere, from the dervish heat of the desert, raving and dancing, to the dripping mists and fogs of the northern swamps. On this condition only do I promise. Let not the Romans, overconfident and out of misplaced filial piety, restore the towers and walls of fallen Troy. The restoration of Troy could only be under the mournful sign of another doom brought down upon it by a vengeful host. Juno herself, Jove's sister wife, will lead it. If yet again, with Apollo's help, the walls of Troy should rise in bronze, then yet again, with Juno's help, the walls of Troy will fall, and yet again the wives and mothers will weep. Why does the muse persist in telling stories of the councils of the gods and such high things, accompanied by the attenuating sounds of my jocund lyre, unsuitable for this? So the poem sort of ends on a nice little twist. He says, this is sort of a heavy poem for me to be playing, who generally do sort of lighter stuff. So that was the Roman Ode, Book 3, Number 3 of Horace, entitled here by Ferry as Constancy of Purpose.